6 p.m. This meeting of the Ocean Highway and Port Authority, April 24th, 2024 is hereby called to order. Commissioner Cole is giving us
Heavenly Father, Lord, we do thank you for this day. Thank you for this great country that we live in. We pray now, Lord, that you would give us wisdom and discernment as we prepare for the Ocean Highway Port Authority. We pray for our country's leaders. We pray for our first responders and servicemen and women that you will keep them safe. We pray for peace in Israel and Ukraine. And we're just grateful and thankful for all that you do for us. We ask all this in your precious name. Amen.
Please join me in the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible.
Commissioner Cole,
Here.
Commissioner Fullwood, Commissioner Nelson,
Here.
Vice Chair Taylor,
Here.
Chair Hill.
Sure.
You have a quorum.
We'll do a little bit different process. Usually I introduce folks in the audience, but I love it when we go to the transportation planning organization, the TPO meeting. Everyone in the room introduces themselves, and it allows us to have in the record who's present. So if we could start and just, I know Julie Roberts is present, and we have Mayor Letovich, who's also writing the paper. We have our auditor from Malden Jenkins, Wayne Sansbury. We have a candidate for office, Scott Moore. We have the mayors, which they did not want to give their address, but they are neighbors of the port. And so if we could just get everybody go around. I know we have Bob Virtue and his wife. Could you please?
I'm Gene Warren.
Gene, thank you for coming. And Mr. Deverly, thank you for coming.
David Bean.
And you don't have to say why you're here, but thank you for introducing yourself. And then we have Commissioner Ross, and we have Mrs. Fullwood, and we have one more speaker. Sir, can you introduce yourself for the record? If you like. It's not required, we would just like to have the record. Luke. Darren, yes, thank you, Lou. I've met you before, and I'm sorry I did not remember your last name. Thank you so much for that. We appreciate that. It's good to have you in the record. And I do very much appreciate you coming. I know the other commissioners appreciate the engagement. Do we have public comments? Sure. Is this better? No. Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. Okay, the public comments. I have 2 speaker cards. If anyone else would like to speak, please fill out a speaker card and give it to Rosanna, please. So the first individual is Mr. Bob Virtue. If you could please come to the podium and do a better job than I did. And this is what I have to say.
Very good.
Very good.
Bob Virtue, 424 or 4.4 Virtue, Urban Gate Beach. Thank you for allowing me to have the opportunity to talk. And I'm here to talk about today the Power Courthouse location. And basically, I'd like to remind everybody of the timeline. Back in September, Savage, not Nassau Terminal, but Savage, made a proposal for up to 2 Power Courthouses and the location of those warehouses. It was included in the meeting packet on page 57. The open board approved it up to 2 Power Courthouses at the location 5-0. On April 10th, I wrote here an email, and I think I copied the rest of the commissioners, saying that the tent was under construction of the Power Courthouse, was under construction. Not in the location, it was approved in September. Mary wrote me back on April 12th to say that she had Patrick sent a letter to the board operator indicating that it would proceed at their own risk, because it was to be reviewed, where Power Courthouse would be reviewed at a meeting on April 24th. And today, we're April 24th, the Carver Courthouse appears to be completed. It's in place. And certainly it's unsightly to me. And anyone coming up Third, whether they're walking or cycling or driving, whether they're north or Third or west on Scotty, they can no longer see the marshes through the river. It's all gone. All they see is the Carver Courthouse. So my question is, the local stand with this after the fact approval of the new location reminds me of the former court operator who always came to OPA or to need Broadway coming after the fact. But, OPA was always in the court operator was doing something without approval. And OPA was left, not knowing anything. So whatever the reason for the new location, apparently the court operator did not share that with OPA. Did not feel it was important enough to share with OPA. So much for good transparency. The court operator's September proposal ought not have been very good. Otherwise, we wouldn't be looking at a new location right now. So I wonder how well thought out it is. If the September proposal wasn't thought out very well, the Tensacola urban fabric courthouse, is already constructed. And I wonder how well that was thought out. If OPA approves the new location, does it give the court operator the green light to do whatever the court operator chooses to do? I have a hard time with it. Because I think that's been OPA's job to approve things. And for the court operator to follow, not for the court operator to beg for forgiveness rather than ask for permission. So, I'm really concerned with that. Basically, I feel like the court operator thumbed their nose at OPA and said, we'll just put the Carver Courthouse wherever we want. I'm sure there's good reasons for it. There were good reasons for where it was originally back in September. I'm really concerned about the next shoe to drop potentially, which would be bringing hazardous materials into the port, which would potentially jeopardize the neighbors and others around the port, including St. Michael's School, which has about 400 children.
Mr. Murphy, you're at time. How much more time do you think we need to wrap up?
One more sentence. I urge OPA to make the port operator move the fabric warehouse to the approved location. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Here is Mr. Lutheran. This is for item 6.
Six, what had on there? Luke there, 432 North Third Street, Fernandina Beach, Florida. I've lived in that location for 18 years, right across from the port. I know their operation is about as good as they do, and maybe even better. Because I see what's going on. I know back from Kinder Morgan, back from what we got now. And I've got 3 things I want to talk about. When I saw they were putting up the facility, we got a hold of the port operator, and we had him on speakerphone talking about what the devil's going on. And he was telling me, well, we had permission from OPA voted, and the city commission voted and said this is where it was going. And he said, but I also had another caveat in there that all ticked off one thing for his manager, that somebody had been complaining about their view, any names, they would take that off of him. He said, we'll talk about it the next day. The next day, it was a different story. It was all about doing it for me. They were going to move had to move all those containers down in front of 3rd Street, which would block my view forever, and then the fabric warehouse could go down there. Now, I know better than that. I know how containers move. I know how to come in and how they come out. That is not the case. The next story was, it was for operations. That we're going to do it and it worked better. I know that layout, that being pretty good myself. There's only been one flood there, 622, container moved out. That's the perfect place we're going to put it back in. So being there for that 18 years, I've been lucky that 15 years of it, I've had really good neighbors. None of them were nuts, but things have changed since. I'm not gonna name any names, but things have changed. I know how they operate, but the empties got up, they stacked them up. They stacked them out front, and then they stayed there 5, 10, 15 weeks. And then all of a sudden they were gone, 5, 10, 15 weeks. We had a view. When I bought my house, I sat on the front porch, it was dilapidated as the devil. And I could see out there a view. I never one time in all those 18 years have complained about my view, about the noise. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next up on the agenda is presentation from our auditors. Before we move on to the presentation, because that may be lengthy, I would just like to modify the agenda and comment back to the folks that came tonight, in case you didn't want to say the whole thing. I did go and run by the port and I saw the warehouse. I don't know if the other commissioners have actually seen it. And it was in the night, I see some heads nodding. And I know that later in the agenda, we will have discussion from Kyle about the location of the warehouse. And so, in the interest of the folks that are here to hear that item tonight, I would like to ask that we bring the discussion forward, just so that the members of the public who came for that issue might be able to, hear whatever our response would be, and they would have to state with the entire resolution for others. Is there any objection to that? Okay. So if you could, Kyle, we do have on the agenda an item. So the warehouse, but we had an update on the fabric, yes, 10A, the fabric storage location. And when I spoke with Greg, he said that you would be prepared to explain why OHPA didn't have notice and the rationale for the location and what the benefit might be.
Yeah. Yeah. Is this good?
Good.
So, first of all, regarding the building, I think I want to at least recognize that the discussion was had with OHPA minus Commissioner Fullwood on the day that we were touring the representatives. And I don't believe who initiated, how's the construction going? And we said, hey, right out here outside the window, we're moving it over here. Here's some of our justifications. And it was all kind of, okay, hey, looks good. And, I recognize that's not this meeting, that's not formal, that's a mistake. I think I've had this conversation one-on-one with a few of you, and, I apologize for that, but, I think it's unfair to just say there was no notification to OHPA because the conversation happened that day. So I just want to recognize that it wasn't a malicious going behind people's back. There was a discussion. It was not in this format, which I've come to understand is the correct format, and I own that. But I just don't want it to be misrepresented that there was no discussion and the operator just took free reign to do whatever they want. Because I do think that misrepresents things.
Okay, so you're referring to the tour day, and just to clarify, OHPA and the board hosted the congressman at the board and
That's
the
right.
mayor, and all the commissioners were invited. This was a notice of gathering. This was not a public meeting that the public would have the opportunity to know that we were there to discuss the location of the warehouse. And it wouldn't be inappropriate at that time, it's not at all inappropriate for you as representative of the operator to describe the operations, to provide narratives, which you did a really great job of that day of explaining to the congressman, and to all of us, and you know, for me, it was a great refresher of how the goods flow through the port. And it was a, you know, a very good tour. In the future, we'd love to have, you know, the press present, those at the next notice of go. But at the same time, I'm very disappointed that the rationale that's being given for such a major change to a major project is a comment that was made as part of an overall discussion. It was an offhand comment that the warehouse location was going to be in a particular place, and that the neighbors would probably be very happy about that. But I think it's really reasonable for any of the commissioners present, including myself, because this is the assumption I made, was that that item would come before the board, and that we would have a picture of where the warehouse is going to go before construction commenced. I would also expect that the permit would be full. And so instead, the path that was followed was without those proper process, because at the meeting, it's noticed, the agenda is going to tell the public and maybe members of the community that you didn't talk with anecdotally, that they should come and express their opinion so that the board would hear that. So we would hear not just maybe the folks that you spoke with, but any others who saw the agenda and liked. So it's just not fair, you know, it's not a fair process, it's not an open process. So those are my thoughts on it. Other members of the board have something you would like to add?
Yeah, and I'll piggyback on what we said. It is disappointing. We've since Savage came in and took operations to the port. There's been I felt like for several months, for a while, a great partnership. It's disappointing to kind of see something like this happen, where the Savage team understands how critical it is to really have the buy-in, so to speak, of the nearby residents of the neighborhood. That's, again, it's our job to protect the interests of the citizens we serve. And so when we see something like this happen, it does raise some red flags. And honestly, thinking about moving forward, if another project like this comes up that we need to vote on, how do we know that we're not going to vote, yes, it'll favor Savage, favor the port, but then turn around and things get changed up, and the business of the board, it happens to OHPA, it happens in this room. We're making discussions and having those talks, and that's when the decisions are made. And so for things like this to change, I have a hard time with that, and it really takes away that trust that I felt like we're all starting to gain from the residents in the area. They've been burned so many times before. I feel like it takes away some of that trust. That.
Has a copy of the permit been provided to OHPA? Any pre-engineering or analysis that says if the site is suitable?
No, it hasn't.
Okay, so that information would be helpful to the board just to understand, because whenever we looked at the original site, that was part of the discussion, which was, is it high and dry? I'm looking at this area, my guess is that it is high and dry, just having walked before. But I think we just need a bit more information to validate that location based on, not really having gone through that process for where it is. I mean, do you have any costs associated with moving it? You were notified back 2 weeks ago that you proceeded to continue construction at your own risk. So have you got an estimate on what it's going to cost to move it? If you have to move it?
The indication on the last time when that discussion took place was around, I think it was 450,000. Or if construction was completed, it would be like 550,000.
Just to move it.
There's also a lot of asphalt involved. And then you'd have to deconstruct it, move it, and then reconstruct it.
455.
Yeah.
Is that within the bid documents? Because I thought they broke out the components of their bidding. Do you have that with you tonight? Do you have the information to validate 450?
No, that was just a number I asked when I was copied on that email. I approached the construction company and our engineering group and just asked for that number.
So, the board here, we're faced with, some choices, as I see it. We have an existing warehouse that's in a location that wasn't approved. I don't think the permit has been issued. Has a permit been issued from the city?
No, from
When was it
the,
applied for?
what's that?
When was it applied for?
I'm not sure the date, but I know from what I know today, there's some sort of process where, and I just quote here, they say it's through the city, but there's a meeting on May 9th where it goes in front of other stakeholders. And then after that is when we officially get the permit. And that's not a process I have done myself, so I can't really speak to those various stages, but that's the feedback I received today.
Okay, so going back to the choices, we can continue as it is, or we can take some sort of action today to,
Chair,
initiate
Chair,
moving the warehouse. What is the pleasure of the board?
excuse me, you had asked me initially to what the justification was for moving it and hadn't discussed that yet.
Okay, sure. Go ahead.
So the justification for relocating the building primarily was because of relocating the containers. So something we felt that hadn't been taken into consideration with the initial drawing was that all the business that was in that footprint had to be relocated. And the area that it would have had to been relocated to would either be down in the flood zone and then construct new roadways somewhere or establish new roadways somewhere, or along the fence line, which is not stable. As you get closer to the fence line, the yard starts to have a bit of a grade. So we're looking at having to do additional civil work to get that flat enough that we could safely go 4 or 5 high containers. Now, the other thing with moving the containers over there is we're losing our block stow that we have over in the corner of the yard. So we were less stable going into storms. So we'd have to downstack these more handling, and just all around it seemed like a bad idea. You know, one of our neighbors made comment about how there was initially a complaint about putting a building there. And my thought, you know, which I've explained to everybody, is my thought process, which has been explained back to me is, you know, incorrect, and I'll own that, was thinking, hey, I'm gonna put it behind the house and this should block most of the building. And that was my justification, other than the business impact in the flood zone. Because if those containers ended up in the flood zone and we had to try to shuffle them out of the flood zone before every sort of flooding event, which sometimes are unforeseen, anybody that spent time around here, sometimes a king tide will just be in the road when you come in the morning. So, you know, we felt getting the containers out of the flood zone, keeping them in a safe location, putting the building somewhere where we felt was primarily hidden. I mean, I wouldn't sit here and tell anybody that the building can't be seen. I mean, that would be untrue, but mostly hidden from the neighbors. You know, we thought that was a good idea. So, and then, like I said, following that up with that brief discussion the day of the tour, you know, I felt like it had been presented, discussed, and I had Commissioner Nelson on site all the time, and we walked the construction yard and looked at where this would be being placed, and we discussed already the cost savings that were going into putting it over there with that nice base down, and then having a nice, you know, well-established area to put the building. So, and like I said, I recognize that discussion was not the right time or place. I've owned that, but you know, following that process, I guess that's how we arrived at, let's go ahead and relocate the building.
But given the, I'm sorry, given the, I mean, I understand the business impact and flood zone, but I mean, should Savage have done their due diligence prior to presenting this to us and know that and understand that? Before just, you know, kind of, okay, we approve this and then all of a sudden all these things come up, and you know, in this process, which it is a process, that when you bring back, hey, we want to make a modification or amendment to what we approved, and then we would look at that, and kind of go from there. But I think doing due diligence is critical, instead of just, you know, changing your mind or changing things up, you know, and moving things around, without getting the proper, going the proper channels to do it properly.
Yeah, this warehouse was built with public funds, so it's not at Savage's discretion to change the approved plan. We have a grant agreement in place that governs these funds, and so they can look back to the approval that the board gave to determine whether what was built satisfies the grant agreement. So, you know, I understand that it may be different or new for Savage to deal with sunshine laws or Florida's specific practice, but now that we've been at this for a while, I would hope that you would get a grasp of it at some point. I mean, these are federal dollars and we are responsible for them.
Madam Chair. You understand that what you did was wrong. You needed to come before the board to get permission to put that in the location you have it in. And I hope you learned from that. If any further work on the board, any building, you need to be before this board so we can give you approval. Because we have people answer to. I don't think it would have been a problem, but next time, try to make sure that we know about it first. That's the only thing we're asking. That's the only thing I'm asking. I understand moving that is pretty high of a cost. I'm not gonna go to have a move it at this point. I hate that it happened, but Savage has spent a lot of money on this board. And we could not afford some of the things that they're doing for us. We would not have been able to do it. We get grants and they pay our share of the grant. But they spend a lot of money here, and I'm not gonna ask them to spend another $500,000 to move the warehouse, but I just want to make sure that you understand from this point on, please let us know what you're doing out there, because it's important. Because we need to bring it before here and the citizens need to know about it. From that point, I think we'll be okay.
I understand, thank you.
Mr. Nelson, would you like to say something?
I got a call from one of the neighbors, actually, voicemail. And I went out there that morning and I did meet with the pilot at the front gate. You know, I understand some of the things that he may have been trying to accomplish. But not bringing it before this board is absolutely, as Commissioner Full was on, proclaimed, is unacceptable. When Kyle and I were out there, when they were just starting the excavation in the, for the pavers, and we seen what was going on, I seen what was going on, the guy come up to me and said, wait a minute, why are we doing this? This doesn't need to be prepped, it's already prepped. So even before that time, it seems to me like it was already the wheels rolling. I was a little puzzled about why they were putting it there. So, yeah, I do agree. And when I was out there to speak with, one of the neighbors, Kyle and I had a conversation, and at that time, Savage's engineer was there, and he got a ballpark figure, at least what was stated to me was 600,000. My comment was that you're way beyond your point of no return. There is no way that anybody would just stop and tear this down and then reconstruct it. There's just no way. Not for $600,000. That's almost 2/3 of your project. So again, a bad mistake was made. But going forward, these mistakes cannot happen.
Now, we don't have to go out there and sit and watch. You know, I'm accused of that already. I'm out there 2 or 3 times a week. They don't even know it. I'm just sitting down the road watching. And then sometimes I'll go to the gate, and sometimes Kyle's standing there at the gate. But we shouldn't have to babysit to make sure people follow the rules. I mean, I'm open for suggestions. If somebody here's got the proper antidote for this, and I think there is a problem, out of Fort Savage. I honestly do. And I think, we'll get into some of that later on in the meeting. But, I'm just beside myself with, you know, just taking the initiative to move, a position of construction and not making anything about it. I mean, yeah, I understand, you know, some of his rationalization, but still, with the board, we are held accountable to the citizens and to the state for what we do with the money. And we can't be foolish with it. We can't be poor stewards of it. So that's my take on it.
Madam Chair, one more thing. If he had come forward and said, I want to put the warehouse here, is there anybody on the board that would not agree with that? Is that okay with you?
I mean, I don't think we can really say because we didn't put it on an agenda and then hear from the public.
Well, that have to be on the agenda, you can imagine, but you would accept it, not the reasons he gave. I think I would approve it.
Yeah, if they had brought it in a, you know, the original drawing, all the reasons you gave, the meeting with that notice, you could have people come out. And sort of tell the difference of the people whose views would have been blocked in the other location, is what I would imagine. But without having done that process, it's hard to know what we would have about. So one question I did have, is there any impact to the grant agreement because of this battery, you know?
I don't know that.
Yeah, I'm not gonna make the motion, but I would be interested if the board agrees, if whether Patrick should issue a letter to, Savage, just advising them that if we do have to amend the grant agreement, any costs associated with this are going to be borne by Savage. And obviously, I know that there's a little bit of flack from Patrick, having to research this issue and provide a notice letter to Savage, and we would expect that to be done by.
No, sure, I don't think the agreement had anything in there about rotation.
I think it is attached, resolution approving the grant agreement, but I have to look back, I mean, he said he needs to look at it, so.
I don't remember it that well. And I remember the first conversation we talked about where it's at, I mean, moving it more to the right and more in the middle of that parking lot. And at that time, when we talked about that location, the gentleman who lived on that service, he said it was blocking view. And that's all I remember that was said at that time. I do remember the conversation that Ray and I had, where they were digging up the concrete or the asphalt, and they found underneath it that there was good asphalt, a good brick underneath it. I do remember that conversation, and I talked about that. And, but I didn't know that was why it was being dug up, or we dug up to determine that that was the most level spot. Looking at it now, I do see that that is the best spot for utilization of space. There's not going to be a dead space there, and vehicles or trucks or forklifts can go straight in or straight out. I do see that as an advantage. So I thought when I heard that it was being moved to there, I thought, okay, well, that resolved the problem of that gentleman that had to, block view. I didn't realize it was going to block your view. So, we don't know. All right.
Well, can you just explain why, this came up later in the process, why you didn't discover it initially? Can you explain the delay?
Sure, yeah, so when it came up, it was from me. When I became involved in the project. And I looked at the plan, which had been prepared several years ago. You know, it was on the desk when we acquired the agreement. And by the time I was pulled into it, I just made a comment of where are we gonna put all these containers? This side of the yard floods, this side of the yard tips over.
You call micro.
Sure. So, you know, when I got involved personally, that's when I raised the question and started looking at alternatives and finding this one and then looking at, okay, what's it gonna do for a view? Where's it gonna put the containers? What's it gonna do to traffic? What, as far as that spot in the corner, what happens when it floods? Should we have containers there when it floods, or should it be a road when it floods? And having those conversations, and then that kind of rolled into the rest of the stuff that we've discussed.
Thank you. So is there any action by the board or?
Only good about that I would not see that we should pay to have it moved. And I don't really expect to put the burden on them to have it moved because of the amount of money that you're talking about. So be a waste of taxpayer money and be a waste of their money. We're trying to work together with them and try to get things done before.
If, when Patrick sent the letter to Savage, stop the work, why wasn't it stopped that point?
So those are the numbers I presented earlier where I said it would be 450 to stop right now and move it. Or complete and have to move it later would be 550. Those are the numbers we were given and just said, okay, so to call off this construction crew or have them demobilize or have them stand by would make those numbers higher. So given those two numbers, you know, and the proceed at your own risk, we said,
I can't hear you.
what is the risk there?
I know if I can't hear you, that no one else.
So,
Please.
okay. So on the date of the letter that we were talking about, that's when Commissioner Nelson was there as well. And we were talking with our engineers and received the figures. What would it cost to stop right now, which would be 450,000? Or what would it take if this project was complete and we asked you to take it apart and move it? And that was 550,000. And then if we factor in demobilization, remobilizing, their crew standing by while we're making a decision, it felt like the number was gonna be the same. So we said, just continue on, we'll work on the communication and talking to everybody and trying to figure this out.
Really hard time to again, and maybe as I think, Chair Hill mentioned, you know, in this public-private, you know, partnership, so to speak. I mean, there's the public side, we have to approve certain things like this, and it's just not happening. And, you know, when I was looking, you know, in the government world, if that would happen, what's expected in the private world. If somebody comes in and does something, and doesn't put, you know, whatever they're constructing, whatever that project is, in the exact spot that you approved and said, what would you say? You know, the contractor comes out and builds something, and it's not exactly where it's supposed to be. Well, then what are you gonna tell them? You're gonna say, hey, no, you need to move it and put it where we want you to put it. And that's where, again, I'm struggling with this, because I mean, I feel like what was agreed upon is where it should be. But I mean, it doesn't appear that everyone else, you know, shares that same sentiment.
That's just a comment back, Commissioner Taylor. I think I can get the process. I understand. And I've taken that one on the chin since the day this happened. I've said, this is my mistake. I've taken it. But when you look at what should be done? Should it be where it is or go to where the drawing was? We discussed where the drawing was a terrible idea. Like it would not work. It would put containers up against the fence, it would put containers in the fence. And so as we work through this process thing, which I think is an important discussion, and I'm taking it, I'm listening. If you're looking against the two options, one of them we said doesn't make sense. If you're putting things down in a flood zone, why would you do that? So that's my only comment, is if as you're weighing the two, it's kind of like there's where it is now or this one that's not a good option. I mean, how are we supposed to do that? We wouldn't pick that building up and put it up there. Because we'd be putting all of our other cargoes at risk. That would just be a bad move all the way.
Any other comments or suggestions from the board, motions? Are we in consensus that we should submit at least our legal fees to the operator? Or do we need a motion for
Let me move to, Greg.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Patrick. And I just want to comment that all of this board, our focus is to keep commerce flowing at the board, because commerce at the board services the grants that have been put to bear, the public monies that have been put to bear. It's the reason why the board exists. So we are all very much in favor of new business coming into the board. This warehouse supports that new business. But we have to have, the process has to be followed. And so this will have, unraveling, or, this is gonna have implications. And something will have shared, national terminals will have to bear that because the process wasn't followed. I don't know what those actions will be because we don't know what the grant agreement requires. We don't know if the permit will be approved. And we don't know what other members of the community would say had this have been noticed. So it'll be on the agenda for the next meeting in case action needs to be taken as we gather more information. I appreciate the community coming out. The board hears you, and all I can say is I'm very sorry that this has happened, and we will keep gathering information and determining what our options are. Thank you. Okay, so the next item on the board is the Northern Jenkins financial statements. Thank you for the patience.
Good evening. Good evening. Thank you so much for allowing me to be with you all again tonight. And thank you how you want me to serve.
Let's wait a minute while let's.
We're not gonna tolerate that, ma'am.
You have the floor. Thank you, waiting.
So I've got two documents today. I'm just gonna walk you through them both pretty quickly. If y'all have any questions at any one time, feel free to just stop me. The first document is the financial statements. That's the larger of the two documents, not the one that's very pretty big. These are your annual financial statements for the year ended September 30th, 2023. We'll remind you all that these are responsibility and representation management. Our responsibility was to perform an audit and then to express an opinion on the financial statements based on that audit. We have completed the audit, dated the report back in February. We have issued an unmodified opinion. This is the type of opinion that you wish to receive each and every year. In our opinion, the financial statements present fairly and all material respects the financial position of the board as of before the year ended. If you'll turn to page 4, This is the NDA, management's discussion and analysis. If you don't look at anything else within the statements, I always recommend that you do read the NDA. Those statements are actually comparative, so you have 2023 and 2022 information there. And so the NDA actually covers 3 years worth of information. It helps the reader understand kind of the ups and downs and the changes from year over year. So again, if you don't look at anything else, I do recommend you read the NDA. Turn to page 8. This is your statement of net position or your balance sheet. The board ended the year with just under 15 million in total assets. Total liabilities of about 250,000. The total positive good position of about 14.6 million as of the end of the year. The next page is your income statement. We had total operating revenues of about 183,000, majority of which are from the port operator, the overall contract. Then we have operating expenses of about 2 million, coming down to an operating loss of about 1.5 million. Certainly want to note that about 800,000 of those total operating expenses is depreciation. That is a non-cash item that is just simply a book entry, bringing down your overall assets over a period of time. Then you have some non-operating income, primarily your port security reimbursements, as well as some capital contributions, some overall grants, as well as some contributions from the operator, coming down to a total change in that position of just under $400,000 decrease from the prior year. Certainly one thing just again to point out, again, the overall operating loss, they're pretty consistent from 22 to 2023. Those really need to be addressed as well as we can. Obviously, that's not a sustainable scenario year over year going forward. So just try to make sure that we're controlling those expenses as well as we can and trying to generate as much revenues as we can to offset those overall expenditures. Page 10 is your cash flow statement. We did have a positive increase in cash for the year, about 143,000, and ended the year with 273,000 in total cash position. Beginning on page 12 on the footnotes, I won't go over all of those. For the back of the report on about page 23, this is page 21. This is what we call the yellow book report, reporting the overall internal control, compliance, and other matters. If we had any kind of finding, material weaknesses or significant weaknesses, that would be reported here. Happy to report that we had none. A lot of times you all do receive and expend federal funds or state funds in excess of 750,000. We did not do so in 2023, so we did not have an additional required single audit. Further on, we've got the management letter, which is required by the state, and that's really mentioned there. And that's really your financial statements. Allow me to skip over to the other document. This is what we call our ADM, our auditors discussion and analysis. Real quick, there's the beginning of it's just information about Halton Jenkins, our overall governmental practice. Again, we are a large regional firm here in the Southeast. We do audit over 700 governmental entities here in the Southeast. Some information there. Also, we list out all of our required communications that we are required as part of all audits to issue. You can do that in a verbal format or written. You always choose to do that in a written format. All of those. I will just point out the very last one is independence. We certainly are independent with regard to the board. We take that very, very seriously. We want to note that at the record. Going forward on page 8, we do have just one kind of management recommendation, if you will, regarding grants management. Obviously, as you all have already kind of discussed tonight, there is this public-private partnership that you all have. They are the ones that are operators, or the operator is the one that's operating for. They're the ones that are going after grants. They're the ones that are aware of the need for some grants. I just do think that there could be additional policies and procedures in place that allow for greater communication between the two parties so that everyone knows what's going on at all times, so that things like that, it's already been discussed, Lastly, there are a lot of, GASB statements that have been issued over the past several years. We list out all of those for your pleasure. I don't think any of those are going to be having a significant impact on the financial statements in the future, but we do provide those to you all. It's just some guidance and some information. Then lastly, we do provide, what we call CPE, continuing professional education and training for all of our clients. So certainly anyone on the board, you're more than welcome to attend these events. Really, since COVID, we've been doing those virtually. So you won't do any traveling, you can really sit in your home in front of the computer and attend any of those events that you so choose. Just want to point that out. It's available. I'm sorry?
Does it count for bar?
It is not limited to, CPA exam. But that's really all that I have. You all have any questions?
Sure. This might be more a question for the chair, but, and we've already agreed on this, so obviously, my question was just going for the public with this question here. We have miscellaneous revenues or miscellaneous expenses. Sorry, I wasn't the on page 9 for operating revenues. And those are, pretty big items. What is the miscellaneous? It's page 9.
Expense, a lot of G&A, general administrative. I think that over the years that grouping has grown. It's a little larger than it was in the past. And obviously, if you like us to break that out, we can do so. I think last year there was a lot of the court, the regular costs there, some repair maintenance there, as well as outside consultants. I think also.
So that would have included the director's salary and then legal expenses?
Expenses are professional fees. Legal expenses are professional fees.
Okay.
So with those would not be included in miscellaneous.
Because there was a big increase for 2022 for the expenses. And then another thing I wanted to ask is, about controls over revenue. So this is just OPA's operating revenues, but and so the grants flow through OPA as revenue, and then they're dispersed as payments. So we're just a pass through for grants. But in terms of the operations of the port, and I know I've asked you this before collectively, and I know you don't give legal opinions, but right, it's our charter does state that revenues would flow through OPA that would direct control, and the charter states that we would designate a financial institution to which those revenues would be deposited. And I always have raised that question, since my initial involvement with OPA as to how our setup aligns with that requirement. Is that anything you consider as part of your analysis?
No, I mean, the board, obviously is in charge of your charter. You can change that charter if you need to, but you all have approved. But I think you have some leeway there, but just the control with the operator, the operating agreement, the board did approve. And so that did change your overall operations. I don't think that the charter dictates that, you all should be the ones in charge and actually running with the board. That was the beginning decision made by the board years ago, to do so. And that's how, things have been set up and how things have been recorded within the state.
Right. Historically, that's the way it's been done. Right. Obviously, the reason that revenues have flowed was only from bond agreements. Right. So bond agreements dictated prior to the current situation that we have today, where obviously the bonds are now conduit bonds by the port operator. Prior to that, they were Ocean Island Port Authority bonds. And the bond agreement dictated how revenues were handled and how they were dispersed and where they were dispersed, in what order they were dispersed. That was all defined by the bond agreement.
So what you're saying is that under our charter, we would be exercising control over the revenues by delegation to the operator. through the agreement. So our charter requires us to have control, our charter requires us to designate the financial institution with which revenues are deposited. But if I hear you correctly, we're in compliance with the charter because we have an operating agreement that does that.
I have no idea if we're in compliance with the charter. That's a legal question. What I'm saying is that historically, we have not collected all the revenues that the operator collects, neither when we had the bond or not. The only reason that the bond, that the previous to, before the bonds were retired in 2018, the revenues were collected by the trustee of the bonds and dispersed per the bond. And only the fees that were defined in the port operating agreement. So never has the port in its history, as far as I know, gone collecting all the revenue from that are collected at the port and then disperse those as per any kind of agreement or any kind of payment or anything like that. Again, that's a legal question. What I'm saying is, prior bond trustee was collecting those funds for the bond. And obviously, I think Savage or Nassau Terminals is still under that type of agreement, where the bond trustee collects whatever fees they have and disperses them per the bond agreement to make sure that there's a priority in the bonds. Number one, number two, number three, number four, number five, which is what we had before.
And at that time, we did have a separated inspection of the records of the operations of the port. They were direct bonds.
And we will again, when they become relevant to our financial statements. So the only part that was audited was the part related to the dockage and wharfage fees that was applied through the port operation. Nothing beyond that. Right, so, and obviously we will have per ton fees that will start to be collected in year 7 of the bottom of the current operating agreement. And those will be included in future audits. Obviously, if we're significant, well, that's up to the auditor deciding what extent they're going to review those. Just like now, we have an agreement for admin fees, and so obviously that's part of our financials now. If the auditor decides that they want to confirm those numbers, then they will get the records from the operator and confirm those numbers, and that's what they did in the past. But only to the extent of revenues that are defined in the operator.
And because there are those conduit bonds, the operators' financials are audited and they are, the revenues that are related to the conduit bonds are reported quarterly and annually to the bondholders.
Yeah, separate from,
Yep.
obviously, the old bonds were Ocean Island Port Authority bonds. The new bonds are Nassau Terminal bonds per their bond agreement, per et cetera, et cetera. They, whatever requirements that the bond agreement they agree to, defines how to handle both the cash that comes into the operations and what they have to report. And yes, I think there's a quarterly public report that's available. Whatever it's called. If you look at
But you don't even. I think it's helpful just to explain that because I have a master's degree in finance, undergraduate degree in finance, nothing in accounting. And it shows, but I appreciate you walking us through the dynamics of the cash flows, because I think, for members of the public that look at this, they're like, where's the revenue from the port? They want to understand where the goods are flowing and how does that all relate to the tariff? So I think it's helpful just to explain a little bit of the history and why it is just the administrative expenses out there. So thank you. Did any other members of the board have questions about the event? Makes a good fan. No, and all joking aside, I know it's one of the most important processes that we do every year. And I know it's been a while since you've come and given us this education, and I really appreciate it. And I will take you up on the CEs for internal controls. I appreciated that you included in your statement the financial reports, and they need to have process procedures in place, and we did work on that here, and Rosanna spent many hours working on grant administration procedures. And we have requested, done reporting from the operator, so,
It was a different audit,
right.
not just audit.
Oh, well, he did have one comment in there about procedures, but it was just a standard.
But yeah, obviously
That was
the
your FDO.
FDOT audit of ours, specifically all of our grants and the requirement that we have procedures in place. And we did prepare those procedures. That was FDOT audit.
And
of
we
grants.
actually spoke about that, and that's why we got the standard comment about the process, which is good. It's not a flag. Don't panic. Thank you, Mr. Sandberg.
Thank you. Well, that, like,
A lot of these. You drive up today?
Yes, sir.
All around here.
I keep trying to get my phone by.
There you go.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Please, thank you.
Feel free to call me if you have any questions.
Please, thank you.
Okay. So, the next item on the agenda, it's been an hour, does anyone need a quick break or? Okay, let's keep going. So the next item on the agenda is 8A, approval of minutes. Do we want to take them all together or separately? I will take a motion.
Thank you. Madam Chair, I had a correction on the March 13th. Item 11B, second, paragraph, last sentence, so that should be 65,000.
Okay, do I have an amended motion to approve as amended?
Yes.
Do I have an amended second?
Yes.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, none, the motion carries unanimously, the minutes are approved. The next item is 8A, for the tree report. Chelsea.
Thank you, Madam. Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't know if this is working or not. My report's in the packet. Obviously, we have been active in the past week or so on the property purchase case, not in the way that we thought. So that heard from the Florida Supreme Court in the Gulfbridge case, which is not our case, but it didn't pass this one. But you can see in the report, and we have filed a motion for a minute, and then we've also filed a motion for injunction. And so we're working on advancing both of those, and I'll keep you posted. We're also working with counsel for the operator, given the fact that they accepted our previous tender of defense in this case. So, price them with what's going on, and we are discussing the case, and discussing resources to dedicate to the case, given recent developments. This is active litigation, so I want to talk a lot of detail in a public meeting, which I think I hope everybody understands. So I'm happy to answer any questions you may have on that. Some updates in the pilot case, the schedule has been pushed based mainly on the judge's availability to decide. She's relatively new up here. She still has some other duties, so her calendar did not allow for our original trial date of May 22nd, 23rd. She's given us a deadline to conduct mediation by July 31st. So we're working with the city on that process. That'll be full blown, both full commission, public notice, all of that. So it's going to take a lot of logistics to get that organized. We're just starting that process. We have a case management conference scheduled for next week, and that's really just to talk about where we are with getting mediation set. The judge indicated she's calling for whether it's time we need to do it, given the complexity of getting everybody in a room. Also, we did send a sort of renewed settlement letter to the city on April 16th. It was received by the city attorney on April 16th. I have not heard anything in response to that. The other matters there are kind of repetitive previous meetings and happy answering questions. I did want to note, which is not on here. I reached out regarding the signage at the Tradeplex. I think I sent an email around on that. The
RV boat storage place, has changed ownership in the intervening years, that they're no longer interested in using the sign, they have their own sign. So kind of a dead end, on that. So there's space on that sign, but, I don't know anybody that's interested in, I don't really know, attached to chasing down the owner of the RV boat storage. They're not interested.
But their sign is on that portion of the.
It's still sitting there, yes, it is.
And they got voted.
They indicated it wasn't there, but it appears that it is. They're from Texas, I'm not even sure they were aware of it. So I think it's our sign, if we don't want it there, we go.
I noticed that the grass had been cut, the most recent time I went by, before that, there was no maintenance or upkeep. In the past, we asked for one user of the sign to just maintain it and maintain the grass.
Right.
So,
Yeah, I don't know who's doing that currently.
small dollar, I discussed it, but it would be good to make sure that it's maintained. Does the board want to take action on that to ask the one individual, the RV boat storage folks, if we're to take their sign down, or if they'd like to maintain the grass? The sign?
Their response to me was, they're not interested in the sign, they're not interested in maintaining it, they're not interested in leasing it, they've got their own sign. They're
So
not
we
staying.
paid it over.
Yeah. I think it's, yeah, I think it's probably attached.
Stop getting all the way.
That's all I need in this very question.
Yeah, thank
Madam Chair.
Yes.
So, in regards to the property improvement case, a few meetings back, I brought up that I was waiting on ruling in the Gulf Breeze case, but I don't like just sitting back, it's like their heads in the sand, not, pay attention, or not really trying to do something in this case. I would like to, see if we get together, have a shade meeting, discuss this case further, discuss those options, and move from there.
Okay, I mean, I'm happy to discuss the case in that fashion, so, pursuant to the things you have to do. I can request that we schedule a shade meeting. There's nothing urgent other than what we're working on right now. By then, I'll have a more substantial update, so that we can, have a shade meeting, before our next regular meeting. I think it'd be fine. That's on the date, so it's pretty separation. So, yeah, I'll request a shade meeting in the, what we call the big house case with the property variance, and I'll work with them on this and that, for that's report.
I support that idea.
Okay.
So I wanted to make another comment about the pilot litigation, that I appreciate that we've had multiple meetings, we've had good discussion among our board, and I think that we've made progress. My feeling is that there isn't an earnestness on both sides. I know we're moving toward mediation. I'm speaking for myself here. I just really hope that as we move forward in this process, that the other members, the members of the city's commission, really take to heart the mediation process. We've already done this once before. I think it will be a helpful process for us to meet together in boards. But if we go into it with the attitude that we may or may not take the mediator's advice, it's a waste of time. And we need to go into this mediation with a will to settle, a will to give, but also with the intention of our board communicating and making very clear to the other board, winning over their opinion, that the court does contribute to the county, that the court brings in revenue to the county, the court creates jobs. The court shouldn't be subject to tax, it's not subject to tax. And the notion that we are going to impose a tax on our customers that goes up into infinity is not equitable, it's not good policy. And, you know, it's not even reasonable, it doesn't align with reality. So I hope that we can go into this discussion, because we do have reasonable members of the community who serve our city. I think we all respect, you know, members of the city commission board, but we need to stop spending city funds arguing and start spending, you know, county and city funds, building our community, building back our economy, and supporting each other mutually for the benefit of the, you know, city, county, and state.
Madam Chair, I think the majority of the city commission are willing to come to a settlement. They realize the same thing you just said. It is a waste of time, it's a waste of money. You've made offers on both sides. We're close. I think we're close. I think, like I say, the majority of the commissioners are willing to sit together and do something. So I hope you're right. It's not a waste of time.
All right, thank you for the update, Patrick. All right, next item is the Port County report. Mr. LaPorte.
We have the treasurer's report in your package. Obviously, this is the March report, so the next quarterly fee is due, will be due in May. Rosanna just sent out the invoice for that. Other than that, so we are also preparing a ARPA reimbursement for the January through April payroll. So we should have that coming hopefully in May also. So on the revenue side, that's obviously we have bunkering at the harbor admin bunkering fees that came in March. On the expense side, no items to report. Obviously, we have the tech center rent, which is relatively new, and obviously we've made a payment of $1,000 to the Nassau Economic Development Board. So on the customs house, so we had the reimbursement from worldwide terminals for those for the repairs and upgrades to the customs house. So obviously they're treated as revenue. So any questions? And then obviously the balances in the accounts. So we have operating, admin, and the maintenance account, and the balances as of March 29th. That's my report. If anybody has questions?
So we're looking to stay on track through the budgetary cycle, operating fees, operating costs, expenses.
As of now, so obviously we made the budget adjustment from last month. We put additional money into we approved at the last meeting, which was to move $1,000 into travel.
That was just moving an item from one to
Right.
another.
So obviously we expect, obviously the executive director is essentially, this will be the last, April will be the last payment. His contract's officially ended April 3rd. So that's on track, and obviously we have the ARPA funds coming in, so we should have a small balance depending on other spending. We should have a small balance to carry forward to 2024-25.
Any other questions from the commission? Okay, thank you so much for your question. Tyler, you're up. The operator reports next.
So we have the March tonnage by commodity report included. We had 5 vessel calls in March. 2 of those were Summers Isles containers. One of them was the wood pulp. Another one was the craft liner board, and then the last one was hardboard Yucatex. Overall, you know, our volume's pretty flat, we're pretty steady for the year, and coming in with 12 dockage days again for that. Average trucks per day, 21, so pretty on par with last month. And then Rail cars still pretty busy, not as busy as last month, but 132 this month.
Questions on the report? Did you have any, good news report? Like, any future news?
Yeah. I'm not sure it's gonna hit the same, but we're really pleased to announce the Great Lakes East LLC company has revived the Crimson Barge service that used to call Fernandina from Fernandina to Puerto Rico. So that's very exciting news. A little while back that had left and gone to Mobile, Alabama. And they had just consolidated operations, so it left Fernandina. And when they decided to close that business down, the folks at Great Lakes acquired those assets and brought the business back, and they want to make Fernandina their home port. So it's very exciting for our team members. This is going to be one additional vessel every month, and it'll be a steady call. And it business, we've talked in the past about what do we do with covered storage and why are we making these investments? And we've talked about when it comes to covered storage, you build it and they will come. So this piece of business will be utilizing the new fabric building that we're about to finish construction on and be adding one vessel a month to the terminal. So very excited for that.
I haven't found anything to take yourself. But I think it's great news, and we're winning business not only for the and Nassau County, but the state. We brought back business that Florida had lost to Alabama and brought back to Florida, so that's a big win.
Yeah, it's great news. And I know we ask a lot, what have our developers been up to and what are Matt and Virginia doing? We keep talking about them. This is the kind of stuff they're working on behind the scenes is bringing these bigger deals to life and keeping our current customers happy and make sure they feel loved. So Matt and Virginia put a ton of work into this and they did a really good job bringing Sal and the Great Lakes team back to Fernandina. So really excited to start that up. First sailing is expected June 15th.
Chair,
Yes, sir.
I noticed when I read that it said you would be unloading the vessels onto the storage on the dock. Is that what that said? Did I misread that?
That might have been on the other side. So the way this looks is cargo will come into our port and they're focused primarily on steel products, lumber, and then the KLB products. And those will be stored on our port. And then once a month, when the barge shows up, we will load them into the barge and then they'll go down south, be unloaded onto that dock.
Did I read it wrong? Is that a covered barge?
It is, yeah, it's really neat. Next time you're by the Blue House, I'll show you a few pictures from back in the day, but it essentially looks like a warehouse floating down the river. It's very neat.
Did you have that link that
Yes.
I sent you? Do you mind pulling it up?
I don't have
Oh,
that
that's
on the
okay.
computer.
It was just a press.
Neat looking vessel, barge.
It resembles the crowd.
Yeah.
Well, that's great news. Thank you for sharing it. We look forward to more opportunities like that coming our way and, welcome. So the next item was the port issue repairs and capital improvements, which somewhat are the same item. I think we probably combine those for the next agenda. But, do you have any updates on existing facilities or improvements on the port other than the fabric windows?
So I don't have anything, I think, in particular worth mentioning within the report unless any commissioners have questions, other than I think of note is warehouse 3. I know that's been brought up several times and Rosanna and I will be meeting with FDOT here this week, I believe tomorrow.
Mhm.
And our intention is we've found a couple different ways to ask for funds to address that roof. So I just wanted to highlight that in here is that we're trying to get the money for it.
What about the guard shack? Is that?
Consider it union.
I won't say done because we're doing minor details. Tomorrow, the guards are getting a nice big TV to show all the new cameras on. And after the TV, there's a shelving unit to install, and I believe at that point we're done. Just minor details that the guards come up with, and, you know, we think they're good ideas. We want them to be comfortable in there, so we're really taking their feedback, and they're really making it home. It's nice, as Commissioner Nelson highlighted, I spend a lot more time down there now that there's room for a second person, so, yeah.
We're not putting a recliner in there.
No, we're talking about a front porch, maybe.
And the repairs were made to the damaged roof.
They were, yeah, the dock canopy's been replaced. The only thing outstanding is we're working with the contractor to put gutters on that one. Because we don't like the way the road's being.
Okay, can you turn the volume up on these things?
Yep.
You want to get feedback?
Yeah, you gotta lean into the mics.
Right, the next item on the agenda, did you have anything else, Don, you wanted to add? Go right ahead.
Not for now.
All right, 9A, old business. This is also for you, Kyle. This is our document request, which has been outstanding, I believe, since last year. But do we have any updates?
We're seeking additional response, so I think that was really, again, been working on some other things over the past week or so, but I think it's some additional information to all of that and provide a little bit of an update.
So I'm guessing that that's also inclusive of the financial reports that we requested, the periodic reporting. And I think we looked at, when I reviewed the minutes in preparation for this meeting, that was something that was going to be provided at this meeting, together with a business plan. Is there any update on, I know you have a great announcement, so that obviously there's fruitful development from your activities, but at our last two meetings, we discussed periodic financial reports and a business plan. So what we'd like to see is for NASA terminals to come back with a schedule of when you would be able to provide that, if that be this summer, and what we can expect to see. So I think we're looking for quarterly reports, and then just, you know, whatever level is appropriate to share without giving away our competitive advantage.
Sure.
Awesome. All right, so the next item was the port pledge tugboat. So I know there has been some activity, and this somewhat relates to access to the port. So maybe we can take items 9E and 9D together. Commissioner Nelson, I know you tried to interact with the port facilities, and we are trying to work out the terms by which we can bring the pastor out to the port. So do we have that resolution? Yeah, thank you. So previously we considered resolution 2024-R06, and this just outlines access for the commissioners to the port, which is already part of, you know, just our regular business and our regular course. Traditionally, we haven't had issues with commissioners being able to access the facilities, with a few exceptions. But I would say there were exceptions and not the rule. And so we just wanted to formalize what we believe is already part of our charter obligation, which is to come to the facilities periodically and to be able to see open property and ensure that, you know, the operating agreement is being upheld and that business is flowing. So some of the requirements that were suggested, Greg sent back in an email form a list of stipulations. And I know, Patrick, you provided some advice. I'm not sure if it was at the meeting or to me, because I just remember, Greg, do you want to summarize?
Sure. So we in McAllister, we kind of got there with Commissioner Nelson. We received copies of a waiver form, decided one they signed. One was for Commissioner Nelson, the other was from McAllister, so I asked the operating advice from McAllister, they reported the agreement, but my advice to Commissioner Nelson was based on the language of the waiver form, do not sign it, and so I believe that the appointment meeting was canceled or postponed. I would like to see that again, it's in the same form, but not advise the commissioners to sign that waiver form, it's liability on me personally. I don't think it's appropriate, given the arrangement with the port operator and their indemnification of OHPA in operating the facility. So really number 3 is the only one that I, as port attorney, would recommend that you not agree to. I think the other items on here you need to discuss, and I agree yourself, they appear to me to be more procedural and logistics, but I'm not in the business, you all are. But number 3 is, you know, from my perspective, no.
Commissioner Nelson, since you're, you have it, recently, do you have any comments about the 24-hour notice or the safety briefing requirements?
I'm Chair, in our last conversation we've had, concerning this issue, I've always attempted, and I don't believe there's been one time that I didn't notify the terminal that I would be in the area, maybe not a specific time, but I usually give them a time frame. It's bothersome to me, and I'm going to explain why I say that. Until we started, or until I started showing and getting the smoke out of the way of some of the issues that were being addressed, this was never brought up. We never had any special entry regimen that we had to go through. The commissioner showed up at the gate. He was checked in as long as he had the PPE. If he was going to be out walking around, that was fine. If not, at that time, the Commissioner Fullwood needed my assistance, then I went with him. Outside of that, he knows the ins and outs of the ports. He knows where he shouldn't be and where he can go. That's the same today. And I think anything that is applied to a commissioner that sits on this board, outside of what Homeland Security says you have to enter into a restricted area, is a restriction on our ability to go out there and to make sure that things are being done correctly, and that we can come back to this board and report. I should not be hindered if I wanted to go out there 5 times in a day. I shouldn't have to make an appointment and hope they got somebody that can escort me in. I have exactly what the federal government says I have to have in order to enter into a restricted area. Outside of the fence is a security area. It's not a border. Anything on that fenced area is considered a border. That's why it's restricted. That's what part covers you there. Without restriction. Do not put restrictions on the quick cards. You have a quick card, you can go into restricted areas. I think at that point, it stops for us. I've been on the waterfront my entire life. I'm certainly not going to take somebody or wander into a situation that's dangerous. You can see those a mile away. So I looked over Greg's list, and I can settle that, if it doesn't cost work under Homeland Security, we don't supply.
So reasonable safety measures, you do wear PPE, right? You really are that, you do wear proper shoes. And then, I think the 24-hour notice seems to be an issue. If you provide reasonable notice, is it feasible?
I mean, if I'm in the area, I usually go by and take a look at it. not to slow down any operations because I've been in Kyle's position. And when you're doing a production, assignment or task, you don't need any hindrance. So I know about that. And I try not to, allow that to happen. But to be able to go there and actually see firsthand what's going on is a benefit to this board. It's a benefit to me because when I'm out in public and my, family, friends, and the people in the community stop me and say, "Hey, what's going on with the board?" I can tell you. So, I really have a hard time with that, and, I think this board is gonna be stepping out and getting into something they don't really want to get into. We abide by federal law when we go on that terminal, and that should be sufficient.
Okay, so we have a resolution that's on the agenda. And the resolution reads that whereas the charter of the is authorized and empowered to exercise such a police power as may be necessary for the effective control, regulation, and protection of the improvements, works, and facilities, and for the effective exercise of jurisdiction over the improvements and facilities. Refurbs, improvements, and findings that were ever used in the act shall be maintained with any one or more of the objects or purposes concerning which power is granted by this section of the authority. And the resolution further provides that OPEB has duty and obligation to conduct this official business and to oversee the facility and activities. And that OPEB commissioner with a valid equipment card shall have uninterrupted access to the board for Medina of the conduct of official business. So we wish to take action on the resolution, do you wish to approve any maybe items that were included in the email that's attached this before that, or 6 items? It sounds like item 1, 3, 4, and 6 have been objected to. Is item 2 that seems to be agreeable with PPP, and item 5, checking in the security gate. Are those 2 items acceptable? Is checking in the security gate, which is item 5, and the PPE, I mean, this is just a procedure. This is not. So this is addressed to Patrick. What I would just ask if we are going to vote on this is that Patrick could perhaps respond back. And I think it sounds like we have consensus that item 2 and item 5 are agreeable. Is that a consensus? I see that nodding. Okay.
2 and 5.
Yes. Commissioner Fuller, do you agree? It's page 90 of that.
It's up on the board or screen.
Okay.
And it does give a little off the beaten path there with, planned activities and stuff. The traffic, whatever, we're not going to get into that.
Okay, so it says here in item 5, if entering the board, visiting commissioners must check in the security gate, which will allow notice to Kyle and allow the board operator to opt for the safety briefing. So you had a safety briefing. How frequently would you agree to have a safety briefing?
I mean, when I get there, I can sit outside of the gate pretty much tell them. So if they want to have a safety briefing with me, I mean, at the last we were told, you have to come to a shake-up safety briefing. I don't need to do that.
Okay. So are you wanting to strike the safety briefing?
I mean, I would say number 5, we'll check in the security gate. I'm going to give you the notice that he's asked for. And, if there's in that exchange of email, text, if there's something they're changing their patterns, you can mention it to me then. Or I can ask him if there any change in the traffic pattern, and we'll go from there. But I'm certainly not going to want it out into a live, work.
Okay, it sounds like you just wanted to read that you allow the port operator to offer any safety concerns.
I'm number two, I don't have steel taking boots. I haven't had those in years.
I can go along with that if you're gonna go into a live area such as we did with the visit, where you're out there where a roll got away. Not that steel toe boots are going to do a whole lot for you with an 8,000-pound roll, but I can understand their desire to have, as much protection as possible. Again, I'll go back and say that anything more than what the federal government does not have, and I'm speaking from, a veteran of the waterfront and a commission.
So,
I usually try to get out there, get to know what I'm doing and get going.
okay, so do you want to strike steel toe boots? I'm just trying to get something you can run as a board. Okay,
You got still, yeah, I've got them, that means I still have the training you can do. They do what we want.
yeah, I have steel toe boots too. What my concern is just when Commissioner Nelson shows up and it's sure that they would not be admitted or something like that. To me, this should be a protocol, not a part of the resolution. The resolution needs to drive. If we have consensus and vote on it tonight, but this is just an agreed on protocol that we need to revise as necessary. So you are striking steel toe boots?
If I go out there and by myself, I don't have a problem with it. That's what they got. But as you said, if I'm taking somebody out there,
Yeah.
what are we gonna do? Tell special guests that, hey, you gotta suit up and put steel toe boots on. You keep them out of the work.
We'll strike it.
No, we keep-
Let's strike that.
So I'll make some edits and conservatives.
That sounds great. And then, regarding the access for McAllister and this resolution, do I hear any action on the resolution or is one want to wait? Just wait.
I don't know how long they want to go before they say, we're not interested. I think that we've got these people interested. They need to be given the option to look at the vote and see if that's what they want. If they don't, we're done. We move on. He's waiting on me to get back to him to give him an acceptance.
These are public facilities that open board should have access.
Lawrence Hills is coming in. I think that, going to be used by it, from that Lawrence. You have to call somebody back to the office, come over.
I can tell you, when friends have been there, when I was the manager out there, they cut that tub loose, the tow tub, you push it out at the house. That's what I've been doing.
The resolution is not just for McAllister's access, it's for Commissioner Nelson's access to do his inspections. Is there no direction on that?
Madam Chair,
Yes,
I just want to remind you, you wanted an attachment that will go with the resolution. And that attachment was the list that,
right.
so,
I think that
but
was-
Patrick is going to, edit the list. So without the attachment, can you vote on the resolution?
No, what we just discussed was having the procedures to be separate.
Okay.
I'm sure I'll say this in closing. I'm looking at this list that we received, or Patrick received. And I also looked at the resolution and do we need it? We shouldn't need it, but we do need it because people forget that this board has full responsibility for what we want out there. And we need to have access, unrestricted access, to that port so that we can get in whenever we want to, and do our bidding and, not have anybody in there. So, you know what? I have no problem with the resolution. I have a problem with the stipulations that go along with it. That's what I have a problem with. As long as the commissioner can meet the requirement of having what my Peter said, we can do that. So it's stipulation from the part of the resolution.
I just would need a motion that would say what you want. So if you want it to be attached, make it to be attached. If you don't want it to be attached, then make a resolution to adopt make a motion to adopt the resolution.
Would you recommend that you go back to him and say it's not acceptable?
Well, we've done that regarding the video. So, you know, this this protocol, yeah, I mean, based on this discussion and your direction, I will make some edits and just stipulate it to this board to make sure I have everybody's input. I'm hesitant to say that you should attach something like this to a resolution because then this change is for whatever reason. Something happens out there and this has to be tweaked, then the resolution can start over. Trying to make a general statement, which I think section 1 and 2 do. I don't think we really can attach. I think we can put this out there and say, this is what will consider the rule of access, and then we can work on the detail of what does it mean to show up. That's what I'm hearing, that's what I'm seeing.
I think that's,
Do you want to take a resolution? Or consensus?
but in the meantime, you give that access.
I think that's the point, is that we didn't have access, just to do the inspection.
Well, if I may, there was there was an appointment before the meeting said, and the problem I have is with the document Commissioner Nelson being asked to sign. First of all, the purpose of the drafted, it's identified as a company. And the language in the waiver was unacceptable to me as this body's attorney, not as Commissioner Nelson's attorney, but as OHPA board's attorney, that this is not to be signed. Whether the council feels like signing it or not, they're gonna have to evaluate, talk to their people about it. So, you know, I will have edits to you tomorrow on this. Because I'm not working on Friday, because I'm moving our office. So I'll have edits to you all on this tomorrow. You can evaluate it, either pass this without it, or if you think something like that should be attached to it, which I'm not sure is entirely necessary, you can take it up on.
Okay. What would you like?
Because that, he comes back and look at it.
Sounds good. I would like to take a 10-minute recess. We'll reconvene at 7:53.
Take some for a while.
Oh, it's fair.
Go.
Be ready, so we'll reconvene. The time is 7:50. I'm aware that the EPA Clean Ports grant is not ready for approval, is that correct, Kyle? So that would be, that's item 9E, and it says board to approve application, but I don't see an application or a letter or anything.
Yeah, we don't have an application ready yet, so we're working with our grant writers, helping us with an application, and the last few days have been gathering specifications to put on the application. And we've made a lot of progress, so we've identified the scope of the project. What we're looking to do is replace just about all of our mobile equipment, which would be the forklifts, the reach stacker, the top loaders, pickup trucks and service trucks with zero emission technology, either being electrified or hydrogen powered. So the last few days, I guess last few weeks have been just gathering the specifications and costing of all those things so that we can put together our application. And then the other thing that'll be really important, and I've reached out to our council on this, is we need to get a statutory agreement in place, which basically says that we're partnering with OHPA on this, because obviously we can't go for ourselves, but part of this application is we need that statutory agreement first. So our team's also working on it.
Okay. So that would be something that would come forward the board at our May meeting. And so I know your application deadline is May 28th, is that correct? And so we would need to have that draft for Catherine to review with the recommendation to the board so that we can approve the agreement. And then we would need to just have whatever information you're able to share with enough specificity that we know what's in the grant application.
Yeah,
I know it's competitive, and so there may be portions that you know, that maybe are not ready for publication, but we would need enough information to know whether or not we could prove it.
yeah, I think it's a very transparent process. It's a very specific list that we can just provide everything and we can all see it.
So we can expect that at the early May meeting, because I don't want you to miss the deadline.
I intend to supply that soon.
Awesome. Okay, so if we get it in advance, then you would.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, it was today. Today was a very important day. So myself and a gentleman from our equipment group were up in South Carolina all day, touring a facility where they manufacture some of these electric jockey trucks, which are a big part of what we're looking at. So we were out there checking out the manufacturing site and driving around the parking lot, testing them out, looking at specifications. And that was really the last major piece that we needed. So now we're putting together a formal list, and that's really the biggest part of the process right now. So
Okay,
we're getting very close.
great. Thank you.
Madam Chair, I don't know what the question was, I wanted to answer, you turn it to that one. The Coast Guard vessel. Any idea when it's going to leave?
Yeah, it left yesterday or the day before.
It's gone.
This week started to blur a little bit, but it left this week.
Okay. Was that a one-time fee that you charged them about?
It was just a dockage event. So we did a quote of here are our tariff rates. And, dockage is built off the length of the vessel. So that just kind of built up every day.
Okay, you're aware that according to our operating agreement, that is not standard docking mortgage, and you should share in that revenue. But are you aware that
I'm not aware of that.
we got it? And it was that type of docking is not a normal docking mortgage that comes across like this. Anything other than that. It's like we talked about the cruise ship that was built on in the BB-10,000. You never can pick up anything from that.
Are you talking about the thing?
I'm sorry?
Is it labor thing? Labor thing is when they're not taking anything on or off the boat, it's just stopped.
Yes.
And that's
Okay.
correct, that's correct.
Yeah.
We're saying correct, that we should have received a portion of that.
Yeah. Yeah, well, of course, I don't know, it says, specifically says in the operating agreement. That's something we need to look into for problem. You keep turning me off. No, too close. Okay, just. I'm gonna be aware of it.
Yeah, I'll report that back.
Okay.
As far as this goes, though, I don't believe that we did a labor rate on this. I believe we did a dockage rate on it because we were pretty actively working this vessel, helping them get materials on and off and ship things around. So I believe this particular project was a dockage project, not a labor. But I'll bring the feedback about the labor.
Thank you. What's, so is it, you said it's the star vessel is there?
Yeah, the one that ran around at the end of it. Yeah.
Okay, so that's been a lot, that's been, yes, 3 weeks, okay. Okay. The last item in old business is item 9F, Allied Security Staff Pay Rate. This is an item I asked to be added to the agenda, and I think Commissioner Nelson also asked to be added. In discussions with some members of the security detail, we understood the pay rate may be as low as $14 per hour, but then when we reviewed the operating for the security agreement, the rate was actually $19 an hour. And the explanation was that it was gross pay versus net pay perhaps. And somebody said some,
Yeah.
Do,
They're paid 14. Anything above that goes to the company.
Yeah.
That's their hourly rate. When I talked to the manager, I reiterated to him that I wanted to get this information before this board, so that you would have the analysis that he done on others whose locations perform the same work. That way we can make a solid decision moving forward. But I think what we need to do is, if you look at that hourly rate, we need to consider, that's extremely low. $15 an hour is what you can get down the road, handing a bag of hamburgers to a window. These people are out there, performing security, day and night. So I'll leave it at that, but that's the reason I pushed for him to get us an analysis on the pay, so that we could see it firsthand.
well, and my understanding is the security guard have to pay you out of what?
That's exactly right.
Their uniforms are also built back, then they pay, right?
They pay for everything,
Yeah.
to be honest with you. You go through it, as a matter of fact, you'll see the vacation schedule in there. These folks don't even get paid vacation. That was taken away from them. So, this board can do something to correct this, and I urge them to do so. You'll say it is, do the right thing. So we need to take this seriously and look at it. Where you got people that's been out there 10 years and don't even get vacation, and I think that's ridiculous.
So our security agreement does list the pay.
That's what it would be, and the bill back on it. Hal and I haven't had a chance to talk about this, but I do want to speak about it. Because I think that anybody that looks at this across the board would say, wait a minute, how can you do that to people? You can't just take away the vacation. That's a benefit that's earned. But they did it. And hopefully we can get the management from Allied here to one of the board meetings and, we'll ask them these questions.
Here's the, I did that myself.
No, Savage didn't do that. No. Savage doesn't have a contract with the security. It's this board. And, when I was shown, You got a copy of it, right, Kyle? You got a copy of this contract?
Yeah, we've had this discussion in the past. I mean, I think we share the same thoughts here. My only comment, since I've got the microphone now, is I'd just like with the board to just creatively explore how we fund doing the right thing, right? We've got the tariff rates, and what I would like to see Commissioner Nelson is, if we can just coordinate with our commercial team and just try to understand what the market can absorb there on the security fees to help subsidize this, what we're looking at here.
I think we can come to some agreement. Just like you and I, when we discussed the site supervisor, you and I sit across the desk from each other and we came to an agreement. And it worked, and I think you got a good site supervisor. So we'll do it again. This board was unaware of some of the things that are going on, and that was my signal to get them this, this new contract, what they're proposing, and what the, fair rate of pay would be. And I think you would agree that it's more in line with today's rates than what they get paid today.
Yeah, I agree with you with this.
One thing I didn't notice here, out here, is that, the rate for an offer is absolutely ridiculous. I don't even think they did it all on it. And I think, Commissioner Nelson on that, on it. We have security cameras all over that port. You can see every corner. So, why would they need a golf cart? And that rate is absolutely ridiculous. You can buy golf carts, it doesn't happen. But they're charging us, what was it,
$800 a month.
$800 a month.
And
Nah.
my stand on that is with the amount of cameras that we've got, the operator along with the Port Authority, just went and revised all the cameras, on there and really made some solid improvements with that being, and with the situation that we had, with the crime at night, we can utilize these cameras instead of putting somebody out there on a human patrol. They can stay in the office and they can move these cameras around, they can manipulate them. So the need for that golf cart, in my opinion, is not really needed. So there's, what, $9,000+ a year that we can move over and cover some salaries. So, let's utilize what we have, and that's the camera system. That camera system has been invaluable. I can't tell you how many times it's saved us. And we share that information with law enforcement as well.
So I'm looking at a document that Rosanna circulated that's dated 4/21/2024, which doesn't make sense to me. I don't have the signed agreement, the Ally Universal agreement. Here, do you know when this agreement comes up for revision?
Just recently.
So
Right.
the 4
Earlier was it automatically renewed and was good until August of 25 for the next renewal. Was
August 10th. We signed the contract August 10th, 2022, and it says the agreement will automatically continue thereafter on an annual basis until terminated by either party on 30 days written notice to the other party.
So the document that you circulated, that's Ally Universal Security Professional Services Agreement 4/21/24, that's just is that a proposal or is that the agreement?
That's what, he attached, Mr. Mazuka attached that to his,
That's their proposed changes to the current contract.
Because that has a pay rate of $17 per hour for a security officer and then a bill rate of $23.80 for an annual cost of $250. And then site supervisor would go to $20, but we would be billed $28. So total of those is $315,660. Is their estimate. So, I mean, that's the current, that's the proposed change, the current contract. Trying to find to figure out how much of an increase that is.
Madam Chair, if you go back and look at the, in the past, there were some years, and I'm not talking about just a single year, I'm talking about multiple years. Security has never increased any amount, $0. No cost of living. No merit, no nothing. So that's why we're at a point we are now, with such a wide gap between what other security agencies are paying officers for doing the same job that the officers at the forefront of Medina. And that's my concern. If these folks walk off the job, we lock the gates. You don't have any choice. And then you have to notify the federal government within 24 hours, and that's what you've done. You cannot work without security. That is an open border there, and it has to be secure. It's more secure than the southern border right now. So we need those folks.
Well, I mean, what is most concerning to me is how much we pay per hour and proportions actually going to the employees. But, you know.
And we can get that information. He done the analysis on what he thought would be helpful to us. But I can put out an invitation for them to come here and sit before this board. We can have a conversation.
So we don't have the opportunity to rebid it, but we do have 30-day termination.
You can't, I think it was done last year. Nobody did it. They were the only one. They are the only one.
I think they thought it was going to be better, but then they want. It was under the session.
Well, I can tell you this, the conversation that came to me while I was the TM, nobody would want it with the rates that's being paid. And if you look at history, that they were correct in their statements. I mean, it's below what somebody was made, you know, working at a hamburger stand, Chick-fil-A. And I think that's not right. But these are the same people that Customs said and sent the word to this board that they were the most professional bunch of people that he's ever worked for, and that he appreciated their efforts because they were proactive. If they saw something, they said something. So, coming from a court director, that's a pretty good pat on the back here.
Back in 2022, Barclay McClure Weiser turned in a bid. Barclay McClure Weiser. They turned in a bid along with Allied.
2022?
So we had two bidders for the security. And the board then chose Allied.
Would you mind recirculating that bid just
Sure.
to the boards? I think it's important. I'd like to keep it on the agenda. It doesn't sound like we're prepared to take action tonight. Unless the member of the board wants to propose an action.
With the chair give permission for me to invite the management to come for a question and answer.
Sure.
Then you talk to them straight up, and you probably solve a lot of questions and a lot of issues.
I love your approach. You definitely love.
I'll make that comment.
When do we need to do that?
And once a week. If that gives them enough time.
I will report back and, I'll get some dates from them and hopefully that'll work for them. But, I'll put that into the motion.
Thank you for sharing. All right, next item on the agenda is item 10A, fabric storage location report. We move that forward. Item 10B, FBC Resilient Florida, April 30th, adaptation planning dialogue stakeholder workshop and board attendance.
President, I think Mike's still working. It should keep going on.
Okay, I don't know what to tell you. I don't.
Okay, so this is an event that's being hosted by the Board of Works Council, an adaptation planning workshop. You have to email them about the workshop.
I didn't attach it to the packet, but I just wanted, board consensus, who's going to attend, so I could post a notice of gathering.
If you're able to share the information about it. I think you sent out one for the team.
Mhm.
It's a virtual workshop.
Yes,
It's Tuesday, April 30th at 1:30 p.m. Eastern time. It doesn't say how long it is. I know that Vice Chair Taylor, you were going to attend the next meeting of the Board of Works Council. If other members of the board wanted to participate, or if you wanted to stay in anticipation of your attendance at the next Board of Works Council meeting, just wanted it to be, if you would like to go to this, I think other members of the board can also attend because we have a session.
So I have another event that day, and it's going to be sort of luncheon, it will be wrapping up around that time, so.
Rosanna, do you have any comments on that?
on that day.
Tuesday, April 30th at 1:30.
I believe I have an appointment, doctor's appointment. I do at 10:30. I have a doctor's appointment that day.
Okay. I'm gonna keep it on my calendar and I'll try to meet with people. I think it's important to know that they have a resiliency plan. I did try to connect with Jim McDonald twice. I haven't heard back from him, but since that's still a draft form and pending approval, I think it's important to participate. All right, thank you for adding that. So the next item on the agenda is commissioner reports and comments. 11A, new development reports. 11B, committee reports, with security, Commissioner Nelson.
All right, security, no security concerns were, noted. Updating FFP, to mention cameras and, AFSO, which is the alternate service, facility security officer. The new building is in place. I was out there, the other day looking at it. It looks real good. They've got a few things like Kyle said earlier that they're touching up on, but outside of that, the guards are real happy with with an office that they can move around in. So, with that being said, Kyle mentioned that they are going to be putting in the larger monitors, which will make it easier for them to utilize the camera system. The leave area number 9 crane, storm brakes have arrived and installed. They're currently working on some electrical bugs on the drive. And, apparently there's a tech on site. The leave air number 10, that crane is running well, elevator tech working on electrical bugs. I think we still have a small problem with the elevator. Okay. Let's have the, mobile harbor crane. Excuse me. It's been a long issue on that one. The first time they had the issue of the braking system on it, they did get that fixed. So now apparently with the electrical system, you're not using it, or you are using it.
We are, I just reported it for transparency. It's normally you get in and you push the button and the elevator brings you to the top. Right now you have to push the button and hold it. So it's not unsafe. There's nothing wrong with it. Just, since we talk about the cranes often, I didn't want to say, hey, it's 100%. If there's this
Right.
minor bug they're working on, so I just shared it.
Well, I can assure you, knowing the crane operators that I do, if it was something that was dangerous, they would use it. They would lock it and tag it out. Back to the leave air mobile harbor. That's the one that had the numerous hydraulic hoses replaced on it. It's been reported that it is back in service and operating safely. The OHPA trucks, the 6 white ones, there's no issues other than regular maintenance and items that are daily issues, other than one that's having a DEF, which is the anti-pollution system problem. That's been an ongoing thing. The warehouse number 3 roof panels are being added to the FDOT and will be brought before them tomorrow. To try to figure out how some funding can be requested. And I am happy to report that the roof on the rail dock is replaced. It's now, back intact like it should be, and earlier Kyle may have mentioned that they were looking for somebody to put some guttering on it. But it's no longer an eyesore on Front Street.
Very good. So that was, it sounded like you did your facilities with your security, and I'm great with buying those soon, because a lot of times they come together. Did you do okay with that?
No, I'm fine.
Okay.
I'll work with it.
All right. Thank you for that report. Yeah.
And then on the FDOT, there is a teams meeting tomorrow, I believe at 10:30, and Commissioner Fuller has agreed to set in on that one for me in my absence. I will be out of pocket in Jacksonville tomorrow.
Okay. Very good. Next up is some thoughts.
Yeah, Councilman Powell, we had a meeting with CDP a couple of weeks ago on this. There were about a dozen people involved in that call. And the reason is they have to go through every aspect of the program requirements of, they call it POR, program requirements. It's a big, thick book of everything that is required in the custom tax. So we went over that with Mrs. Skovich, answered questions, some of the different people like office equipment, bathrooms, and all those things had to be addressed. Where to put the cable in for the security, and so we've got another meeting planned tomorrow. And it's another Zoom meeting, and I'll be attending that. And I talked to Mrs. Stovich today, and they didn't have any further questions about what is required. So we'll just go through the program of requirements. to make sure that we're okay with everything. And the final thing, whenever we choose a location, we still have to go through that location and make sure that we can supply everything in the customs house that's required, the program requirements. There's a lot to it, but I understand it, and it's just a matter of, it's gonna take several months. Siskovich is ready to come here next meeting and tell us all of the different locations they've pinned, and what the best location is with price. There's even the one location where there's a trailer, like a mobile home you can purchase, but the cost of that, I think you even looked into that, didn't you? It's pretty expensive. And so, and I can tell you the least expensive site they come up with, I think I told them this last meeting, was the warehouse behind the current customs. Because you got cabling, you have to move it across the street, it's gonna cost a lot more money. To build a brand new facility, it's gonna cost a lot more money, so they're gonna tell you that that location is the best location, but they'll give us a chance to decide that. And we'll go from there.
Who from Customs is participating?
Who from Customs, Jennifer Bradshaw, Eric Blair from our facility, Benjamin Wilkinson, the Assistant Area Port Director. You've got other people, a project manager, Tammy Gibson is also, she's the main contact with me. Jennifer Bradshaw was kind of in and out. She's a pretty busy person. With Savage, there was Kyle, Joel Dimick, Greg couldn't attend, but Siskovich with Jennifer Liston, Michael McGuinn, and Marie Sullivan. I'm sure most of those will be there tomorrow to discuss those things.
Okay. And have they provided feedback already, or will this be the first time they're providing feedback?
Who?
U.S. Customs.
Yes, yes.
This will be the first time, or they've already provided feedback?
They provide feedback to Siskovich, and they wanted to know what we have to come up with requirements to put in that for the contract. When we find it inside on the contract, what are the requirements for that contract to be to get on site every day? In other words, they have to have a foot card, they have to sign some document, and I'm working with Kyle on that, to get all that information. I've got this, I'll give it to them tomorrow. But they can't schedule any more time to get the standards taken care of until we come up with a design and a location. It's gonna take several more months, but we don't need to worry about a grant right now until we get all that.
Okay, we just want to be sure that Customs is involved in every step along the way, and they have to
Believe me,
participate and buy in and this, feedback, because if we come out of this with two options and either of them are acceptable to Customs, then we still have to pay for this images time, and we will use that company, and we will not have a plan. So I just want to make sure that Customs has participated in the process, and they won't say later that.
you can't do anything without Customs approval. I'm gonna tell you that now. It doesn't happen. So they're highly involved. Everything they do.
Okay, awesome, thank you.
Sure.
I'm glad you're in charge. All right, economic development, Commissioner Cole.
I'm Corps of Engineering.
Corps of Engineers, there's nothing to say about that.
Economic Development Board, we had a, economic update launching, still on April the 4th.
It was very informative. We had some great speakers, Robert McCain from the county, the engineer, and deputy county manager, I think, was the title. But also Peter Anderson from Patillo Development, and Anna Leach, with Jack's USA. But it was very good, very informative. Food were off the chain, and there was great networking. And NCEDB celebrated 30 years of build-up, and one of the founding members was John Crawford, so he was given an award. And next meeting will be the 28th of May.
Awesome. Yeah, I think all of us, you might have been in attendance.
Anything else? Good. Yep.
Yeah, so one of the things that struck me at that lunch was that all of the announcements by Jack's USA have been outside of this.
Mhm.
And we contribute to Jack's USA through the economic development forum, we have representations of Jack's USA. And I'm just curious, why we haven't had a major announcement in Nassau County. And I heard that question asked by a member of the audience, and the response was that just keep doing what you're doing. And, that to me was, I think we need to do more. So my request would just be that perhaps we submit our new bar service announcement and see if they would consider placement somewhere within, their materials, because they do push information out. But we need to look for opportunities where we have visibility within Nassau County, because we need people to stay here to work. 70-some% drive outside the town to work at one thing. We're clogging up the roadways, there's only 2 ways, So,
Good. I've been on the board since 2006, here in 2009. And honestly, I don't remember anything that Jack's USA has actually brought to us. I may be wrong, but I don't remember. But yet we still pay our dues, and they still say it's coming. They're working. So we need to work on it.
yeah, I'm not advocating withdrawing, I think we should participate. I just think we have to bring forward what we're working on and insist that it has some airtime, whatever format is appropriate. And their organization obviously wants to serve our needs, so let's show them what we have and try to figure out a way for them to serve our needs and for us to have some type of, back and forth. We have the press release, and you guys probably prepare your own press release. I don't want to jinx it, but it would be great to be able to tout what Port of Bernardino is doing to bring business to the state.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, Pierre just mentioned we paid them for this year. We're an investor, so we've got to say so. We need to be vocal about it. And that's another thing.
Also, there was a gentleman there that made a presentation about the new development at Twilight. It's going to be an industrial park. And I talked to him after the meeting, and he wants to talk to us in the very near future about who is visiting.
Possible we alive.
Absolutely.
Great. Did you want to switch to-
Emergency management, and something to report on that.
Thank you. And that takes us to TPO. I brought the 2050. This is the path forward survey that is being pressed for the next week. Rosanna and copies, we posted them on our website. They are on the county's website as well. But this is important. It's a really short, 6-question survey. I took it. There's a place for you just to add your comments. There's also at the very end where you can add your email address, and you'll get updates from the North Florida TPO. Open membership on the North Florida TPO is 1 of 2 seats for Nassau County. And Nassau County is about 5% of the population of the Northeast Florida region of our district. And that's a very important voice for our community because TPO approves the FDOT's plan. So people complain a lot about traffic and they complain about planning, but the TPO asks questions like, do we really need more lanes on the roadway or do we need more ways to get places? Would you prefer to see bike paths in your community? And these are questions that people love to come before the board and the city and talk about, but it's the TPO and it's these surveys that get that information into the statistics for our county. So if we don't participate in these surveys, when we come before the city and the county and complain about traffic, they don't hear that. That doesn't make it to TPO, so it has to go through this to be counted. So I really encourage folks to engage, share this, move to the board, push this out, and encourage the people you know who care about transportation, bicycling, walking, living in Nassau County. Some speech is over. Technical Advisory Committee, Taylor, I know you were going to, Taylor, you were going to attend next cycle for that, so we can skip that one.
Yes, so yeah, May 1st is the next meeting, Rosanna, I think we're gonna bring it down
Yep.
together, 10 a.m. next Wednesday, May 1st. Chamber of Commerce, they're always doing a bunch of events, in the community. They just held a recent nonprofit roundtable. That was a pretty good, informative, little gathering. You know, had an update in the city of Frank Beach. Keep Nassau Beautiful, so, Keep Nassau Beautiful took over Wild Amelia. They're partnering with the county, for the opening of the beaches event, May 18th, so they're promoting, all the events and all the activities they're gonna have. Animals, kids, a lot of the cool stuff they do, so, opening the beaches, it's, May 18th, from 10 to 4 p.m. at Main Beach.
Yeah, they have a few events they've been pushing out, they're staggered, then,
Cocktail, authority.
so that should be nice. Great. Community outreach, yeah, Commissioner Fuller listed of many commissioners, community outreach.
Community out, so we got to talk about what we've all received the last couple of weeks of the way.
Okay, I wanted to share just, we all received the update about National Maritime Day. And so I presented in front of the Board of County Commissioners on Monday and stammered my way through presenting in front of the county commissioners. They're intimidating altogether. But no, I really enjoyed being able to go and speak with them. And Rosanna came with me, and Virginie also came along, and she's wonderful. Thank you for all the good work she's doing. And one of the ideas that we floated was that for National Maritime Day, that we would do a proclamation. And I've talked with Commissioner or Chairman Martin to do a proclamation at the county recognizing National Maritime Day, May 22nd, which I think would be a great opportunity to honor some of our longstanding employees and customers of the board. So I'll be trying to get that information from you and then working with the public relations folks at the county to put together a proclamation, and they're happy to receive that and to do that. And then also to do some sort of activities. It doesn't have to be on May 22nd, but that was an item that I actually spoke with Ray about today, to do something in honor of Maritime Day and perhaps bring out Board of County Commissioners, other local dignitaries, to see what we might be able to do. Just bring them to the board, helps the community feel vested in what we do. It's supportive of what we do, and I think, that would be a good idea. And in support of that, I spoke with Ray also today about the trip festival and potentially using some of the unused land for parking. And he suggested that a few of the employees would be able to potentially do that, be able to do that. So he's trying to determine what will be involved to get, just folks to collect a nominal fee for parking and to use that, the funding of that, to do some sort of event for National Maritime Day. So I wanted to bring that up tonight. Typically I bring that up under item 13, other items you brought. I just wanted to get a consensus on that idea. If you wanted to see what we would have to do a paid parking on the open property that is currently vacant across from the customs house. And Sabbath would be willing to collect the fees, and the fees would be used for National Maritime Day activities. And I'm going to do that in time.
Very front, that's all.
The parking would be just during the fest, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
We have a week to figure it out. So,
Yeah, well, I've talked with the city and they said that during Trip Fest, they do have a lot of local communities that, I'm sorry, community, organizations that raise funds for nonprofit causes. So like the school does this, different high school groups use different portions of property to raise money for charitable causes, something like that. There's a process for doing that and it wouldn't be effective.
and I think it's fine, I just logistically, I didn't know how far the process we got with it, could roll way, so.
Otherwise, it will be probably people parking all around the whole. Which will do. Do we have consensus on that or any questions?
Just put up signs, $10 a pop.
Yeah.
That's a good rule. What? Out here. Prices are going up. Inside of the-
Okay, sounds good. Office manager report.
Uh,
Item 12.
Sorry, my report is in the meeting packet, and unless there are any questions, I would like to thank Kyle Clark for helping me fill out the FDOT questionnaire. We were able to finish it and submit it to FDOT early prior to our tomorrow's meeting, and they were very happy to receive it early. So thank you, Kyle, for helping me with that. And it's looking like May 8th, there's going to be 3 presentations from Mr. Taco Pope, County Manager, Allied, and Ziskovich. That's what I have on my list for presentation on May 8th. So the agenda is filling up.
Very full agenda.
And shade, you bring it 5 o'clock.
We might want to push one of those items.
You know, like, how long is it?
But we can push, where would you rather push this image?
No, I think they get this year. Allied. One of their contractors.
August 10th of this year.
Right now, do you want to move to the end of May? Yeah.
Okay, so we'll move Allied, and then we keep the county.
And on that day,
It's good.
Yeah, presentation for the hall.
And he's hard to get to.
and the May 22nd, we have Regina Duncan, and now Allied.
Thank you. Thank you for putting us on that. Any other items for the commission to consider? None? We're adjourned.